don't want to be on here after 11 if we can't help it. So let's get started on time tonight. All right, welcome. This is Jerry over at Wealth Dynamics. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us for yet another Finance Friday. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you are a repeat viewer, you've been here before. As you know, we do these every single week. Tonight, we're joining you from Tampa, Florida. Moved into our new place. You probably backdrop all looks the same to you guys, but right now I'm looking over beautiful Tampa Bay right now, which is amazing to see right out my window. But we're not here to talk about my view. We're here to talk about finances like we do every single week. Now, we've been doing this course every week going on 3 years. And basically what I want to talk about tonight is organization. Okay, organizing our finances. How do we do that in a way where we continually make financial progress? Okay, now I'm not naturally an organized person until it comes to money. You can ask my wife about that. Most things, I don't care. Laundry, dishes, you name it, it's not my priority or prerogative. But as soon as we put dollar signs in front of it, I all of a sudden become an organizational genius. And so I want to share with you guys some of what I personally do, some of what I learned, some of what I hope will help you guys. Jeffrey says, happy birthday. Thank you, Jeffrey. My birthday is tomorrow. I'm turning 29 years old. It's the oldest I've ever been in this lifetime, which is great. I'm excited for that achievement. Hopefully it's another record year. I think it will be. But we're here to talk about organizing. Now, a little bit about my background, right? So my family growing up, we were terrible with money. Okay, my parents didn't have money. We were not organized. I've told the story before of, when I was, 7, 8 years old, all in one summer, parents get divorced. We lose the house. The car gets repoed. And then I'm homeless with both my mom and my dad. On my dad's side, we're camping all summer, which it turned out we didn't have a house and we were living in a tent. I was 7 or 8, so I didn't know the difference. On my mom's side, we were living in a trailer behind somebody's house. And I don't mean like a mobile home. I mean like literally a travel trailer. And so basically, we didn't have good organization with finances, and it was not something I was equipped for. So I didn't know about balance sheets. I didn't know about profit and loss statements. I didn't know about, all these forms and documents that you get with your finances. And so as I started building up my financial life, I started collecting more and more of these things, records, statements, pieces of paper, accounts, passwords, all of that. And, it started to get overwhelming because I was like, man, how do I pay attention to all this stuff? Once I got into business, multiply that. Now my business has a balance sheet and a cash flow statement and a profit and loss and a QuickBooks account and taxes and this and that. And it started becoming very, very confusing. Okay. Now I'm going to give you a definition of confusion that I learned, and it's really helped me. Confusion is random movement of particles. When everything is moving, we feel confused. Right. Think about like if you're in a room and everything in the room is moving, if you're in traffic, all the cars around you are moving. When you were a kid and you're in a crowd and everyone's moving and you lose that stable point of your parents, all of a sudden you start freaking out and you're lost. Right. And so we can start feeling that way really easily with our finances simply because all this stuff is new. And as we build wealth, especially doing it the Wealth Dynamics way, we have, insurances that most people don't normally have. We have investment accounts that most people don't normally have. We have, retirement accounts and trusts and all sorts of things that we're going to talk about tonight that the average person never has. And so we end up not only confused, but also kind of alone in that confusion because it's like, man, my friends and family, they're not doing this stuff. So I can't even go like to Thanksgiving dinner and be like, guys, what are you doing to organize this? Because they're not doing any of it. Right. And so it can be discouraging. And it's something that I want to cover tonight because it's something that, can almost seem like a downside. Right? Like I don't want to build wealth because it was simpler before I had all this, or it was easier to follow, easier to keep track of. And I want to really talk about this so that people on this webinar, whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching the replay, have a solution and you understand this is part of it. Okay. There will be more things as you build more wealth and you have more things. There's going to be more, papers, records, etc. Right. So before we dive into the couple things that I'm going to cover tonight that I always cover, number one, this is money. It comes down to basic math and looking up words. Okay, do I understand math and do I understand vocabulary? A lot of us don't because we were never taught. And not only that, we were taught the opposite so that we'd be confused, so that we would succumb to Wall Street, IRS, and the banking system, right? So we have to kind of unlearn some of our non-knowledge. And if there's something that I say tonight that doesn't make sense to you, be bold, ask. Right? Don't be the person that doesn't know what I'm talking about. And you're like, man, I don't get this webinar. I'm going to stop watching, or I'm just going to watch and my eyes glaze over. And I'm not really going to be able to apply what I've learned here. Ask questions, right? Whether that's regarding vocabulary or whether that's regarding math that we might cover, right? Second thing, we will answer questions. So drop them in the comments every time we go live. So we will do that tonight at the end as well. We'll go live with you on Zoom. On Facebook, we'll just answer them the old school way where I am literate and can read. And so I'll read your comment and I'll answer it as best as I can. But on Zoom, we can actually talk, which is fun. And then finally, be positive, no negativity. We talk about consumers and producers. Be a producer tonight, not a consumer. Look at how you can contribute, how you can add value, how you can ask good questions, how you can apply the information. Now, without further ado, let's dive into our topic, okay? Financial organization. Now, this is something that as a producer almost sounds boring. So I have people on this right now that I know as soon as I say organized, you guys are turned off. You're like, yeah, that's what my wife does, or that's what my husband does, or that's what my assistant does, or that's what my, COO or director of operations does, or maybe that's what nobody does. And I just don't care because I don't mind being messy, right? There are people that are on this webinar tonight that are like that. I am naturally like that, where I'm like, hey, I'm a producer. I want to sell. I want to grow the business. I want to close deals. I want to invest. And I don't want to organize, but the problem is you have to. Okay. And we're going to talk about this in terms of the blueprint, but there's a triangle here. And you guys know that I love triangles, but there's another one I'm going to share with you guys tonight. That's so important. Okay. It's so important. Let me find my whiteboard actually. Zoom whiteboard. All right. So this is a important thing to realize because it occurs naturally, right? So we have this triangle, and up here we have production. Okay, we're talking about finances. What does production look like? Production looks like bringing in income, right? Production looks like making investments. Production looks like setting up different financial products and services that are going to grow and produce and bring forth more income, more assets, more net worth, right? So this is going to happen. But over here on this point, we have what's called organization, right? So think about this. All of this production brings in financial particles, right? Like I said, statements, accounts, passwords, credit scores, insurance packets, tax returns, entities that we have to pay attention to now, LLCs, trusts, all of this stuff. These are called financial particles. And these particles can get jumbled up. Okay. And if we don't pay attention to them, that's where it can stop things. This is a flow. And so this can stop the flow, right? Because there's too much going on. So we have to focus also on organization. Okay. We set up systems, right? Systems and processes. Right? And then the third part of this is utilization. We actually have to use the systems, right? What does utilization look like? Because it's not by osmosis. I can't set up a system and be like, all right, all my finances are running through the system now. No, I have to actually grab each one of those particles and shove it through the system. That's called routing, right? I have to route them through the system in order to utilize the system. And so this 3 points is I've got to be able to produce, I've got to be able to organize, and then I've got to be able to utilize the systems that I've just organized so that I can route those particles through. Okay, Brian Carmen asks, is this live? This is live. Don't worry though, we don't have you on video. So if you're not wearing pants, I promise I am, but if you're not, don't worry about it. But it is live, Brian. So we have to produce, organize, and utilize, right? And so a lot of times we get focused just on production, and what ends up happening is we get this accumulation, okay? Now, if we don't take the time to organize, then it becomes an emergency. So we want to organize while it's important before it's an emergency, because if we do it when it's an emergency, guess what happens? all of our attention goes to organizing, and then we're no longer producing, and then the particles stop coming. And this is how our stats end up looking like this, up and down, up and down. We have these, production peaks, and then we crash because we didn't organize, and then we have to stop, right? And then we got to fix it all and organize it, right? And then we have to all of a sudden get our production back up, and then we produce again, and then it crashes again because we produced too much and we didn't organize. And then we got to go back down here. This happens in businesses. It happens in sales. It happens in finances. This is up and down and up and down and up and down. Okay. And so the way that we solve this is we solve this by being intentional with our systems, meaning every day we're producing, right? Every day we're organizing, and then every day we're making sure the systems are working. We're optimizing them. We're flowing the particles through. We're routing them. And we're doing all three of those things every single day. Okay. And I hit this first because we're going to dive into some specifics here in a second on what is it we're routing, right? But it doesn't matter what we're routing if we're not doing this stuff. And the longer you wait, like if I produce and I'm like, hey, just once a week or once a month, I'm going to organize, you're going to create this backlog, right? Think about the last time you didn't do the dishes for the entire week, right? You sat them on the counter, they build up, and the pile gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Think about in your business when you didn't want to do your accounting, and so you waited the entire month, and now all of a sudden you got to log into QuickBooks, and it's a freaking jungle of transactions, and you have to go log 150 transactions at one time, right? That's too difficult. And so it's easier to break this down into daily. Okay, if I do it daily, then I'm going to accumulate what, 4, maybe 5 things in a day. That's going to be 10 minutes to knock out, and then I can move on to the next thing rather than letting it grow and accumulate, right? So that's the first thing I want to cover, is that produce, organize, and then utilize, right? And if we do that, we can stay on top of this. Now, what is it that we're organizing, right? What is it that we're organizing? And I'm going to share with you guys on my Adobe PDF here. If this will work, we're experimenting with a new Zoom feature here. Okay, so we're sharing the screen. How do I get to my Adobe? Perfect. There we go. So this is our blueprint, right? This is our blueprint. And I want to talk about today each of these phases, okay? Because we have our blueprint to financial freedom. Each of these phases has its own particles that are going to come with it. And if we don't understand what those particles are and how we need to organize them, it's going to be a lot harder than it needs to be, right? Now, the easy part of this is phase 0, right? So in phase 0, we're organizing anyways, right? Phase 0, we're doing the personal financial purge. That's our budget, right? We're building our budget. We're tracking our expenses. We're getting all of that lined out. And so that's kind of our first sequence of organization. The reason why we have a client start here before they do a sacred account, before it gets issued, before they do anything serious, is so that they have this system set up ahead of time. We don't want to just throw a bunch of new things on you and then you'd be like, well, I don't know how to budget this in. I don't know how this works. I don't know my basic financials. And so this is something where we're setting up, a 30-day expense audit. We're doing our 1 to 5 rating systems. We're doing a monthly budget, income planning, expense planning, organizing our personal accounts, reviewing them, doing a look back and audit of our expenses. We're doing purchase requests. All of this is building your initial organization. But the point of this is not to do it once and be like, hey, cool, I took the course on Wealth Dynamics U. The point of this is you build it and then you maintain it. Okay, this should be like, I did this, every week, right? I look at this thing every week and I put my numbers through it and it makes sense, right? So we get into that. Now, the next thing that we get into is Wealth Dynamics University. All of a sudden, what do you have? You have a new password, you have a new login, and a new schedule. You're on Wealth Dynamics University. You've got these videos you're watching on finances. How do you fit that into your day? That's organization. That's a schedule, right? And so this involves you blocking out time to be intentional about improving your financial literacy. Illiteracy is the root of slavery. Okay, I'm going to repeat this. Illiteracy is the root of slavery. And so if I'm in financial slavery, what does that look like? That looks like, me having, massive consumer debt where I'm not saving any money. That looks like me giving Wall Street everything I earn above that. That looks like me overpaying in taxes. That looks like me giving money to the bank on a 0% unsecured loan because I don't know any better. That looks like me living in a state that charges me freaking 10 to 15% in taxes because I don't know I could move to one that has zero. Right? That looks like me setting up the wrong entity or the wrong corporation for my business and overpaying in self-employment tax because I don't understand how entities work. That's the root of slavery. So if I want to break free from financial slavery, the most active way to do that is to train every single day on money. Right? I don't think a lot of us get that. I think a lot of us are like, this is cool. I could do it. No, guys, this is like, imagine you're sitting there freaking handcuffed in a cell and we just gave you a hacksaw. And you haven't eaten in weeks and you haven't seen your family in years, right? Like, how aggressively are you going to hack those cuffs off? It's not going to be like I might, do a couple strokes on the saw and then take a nap and then, talk to my cellmate. And then, we do this thing on Fridays where we hang out and sometimes we talk about escaping, but I'm not real serious about it. No, you should be maniacal about it. And so it takes organizing in your schedule every day. I'm sharpening my mind on the subject of finances so that I can break out of the financial prison. The financial prison looks like this. You go to school and get good grades so that you can go to college and get a degree that you overpay for, that you're never going to use, that basically they get a bunch of people to write in textbooks that the doctors and scholars don't really write, just a bunch of research guys do. And then they get the doctors to endorse it, put their names on it so they can overcharge you for tuition. So you can get a piece of paper and get the same job everyone else is going to get so that you can work for the rest of your life. And then hopefully you can retire at 60 and die before you run out of money, pay off the house and the car. That's called financial slavery, right? The guys that own the college, they don't do that. The guys that own the bank that you put your money in, they don't do that. The guys that own the mutual funds that you invest your retirement plan in, they don't do that. But that's what you do because that's what we learn. And we don't know that that's financial slavery. And so this has to be something we plan for, right? So that's organizing a schedule. We get into phase 0C. We set up a precious metals subscription. We're saving in money instead of currency. Now, all of a sudden we have a new bill, right? So this has to be added to our PFP, our personal financial purge, to our budget. This is something we plan for now, right? We start getting into, paying off debt. Right? Paying off debt. Now we have a plan to buy off our consumer debt and get the banks out of our lives. That's an organized system. So what does that look like? I need to have a spreadsheet where I'm tracking my balances. I need to know the names of my creditors. I need to know my interest rates, right? So these are all things that we're building up. Now, the big decision that we've all got to come to here on organizing is A, we're going to do it, but B, am I going paper or am I going electronic? Okay, because the thing that I see that most people struggle with is they can't make up their minds on where they're going to go with that decision. And so they do a little bit of both. And then because of that, they never end up being organized because they have paper this, electronic that. They lose the paper statement. They forget the password because they're really not paying attention to either one of them. So if you're a paper person, you need to commit to being a paper person, which means you need to have a file cabinet and you need to have a key and a lock and you need to have folders. And you need to have names and labels and dates and all these things for all these documents we're going to talk about, right? The other thing is if you're an electronic person, you need to commit to that. No paper. Have the Bill Gates rule. There's not a single piece of paper that I'm going to see in my office. It's all electronic. That means that I have, secure filing for everything. I've got passwords. It's encrypted. It's accessible. It's all saved. It's all organized, right? Now, what are some of the files that we're going to have? If we talk about, the blueprint here, one of the big ones is your life insurance policy, right? And again, this is something that we have as our very first record. If you're a client of mine, you set up a sacred account, that's a life insurance policy. And so on our sacred accounts, when we deliver those, one of the things we look at is, am I going to take paper delivery or electronic delivery? Okay, a lot of people don't think about this and they're like, well, electronic sounds convenient. And then they click the electronic button, not realizing that means they're not going to mail you a policy statement. That means that you're going to get electronic billing. That means you're going to get electronic statements, right? We think too much about convenience in the short term and then we sacrifice it in the long term. So I need to decide, am I paper or am I electronic? If I'm paper, I'm going to get a policy packet. I need to have a filing cabinet in my office, in my house, wherever it is I'm using for my square footage in my house for this business, because building wealth is a business, and I am going to write off my square footage for that, right? And I'm going to put it in that folder, and it's going to be labeled life insurance policy, and it's going to have the date, probably the policy number on a sticker or a card, and that's going to be in my files. If I'm electronic, I'm not just going to hit e-delivery and then leave it in my inbox. Okay, your email inbox is not a filing system. Okay, this means that I have Dropbox or some equivalent, and I actually set up a folder, and it's called life insurance, and I'm going to put the PDF file of my life insurance policy in there. I had a client probably 2 months ago, had his policy electronically delivered, lost it, didn't look for it, didn't ask for it. 3 or 4 years later, emails me, hey, I can't find my life insurance policy. Do you have it? I'm not allowed to have your life insurance policy. It's yours. The company didn't issue it to me, so I don't have it. We have to call the insurance company to get it. Well, this particular insurance company said, well, you opted for electronic, so we didn't make a paper one. And for us to make a paper one, it takes us hundreds of pages of ink and paper and compliance. So it's $300 for you to get a new one. Okay, the dude wasn't happy about it, but the reality is I have to commit to, okay, I'm electronic, so I'm not going to be like, hey, can I get a paper copy of my policy later on down the road? Okay, so this is the first thing you're organizing, is the life insurance policy. One of the other things that we're looking at is after we start handling life insurance on the blueprint, that's usually for the purpose of paying off debt. So when I'm doing like my debt buyout, right? Debt is a contract. I have to make sure that everyone understands this. When we have credit cards, when we have car loans, when we have student loans, that is a contract. I can't tell you guys how many times I've talked to people, they don't know their interest rate. They don't know the name of their creditor. They don't know the terms on their loan. They don't know their monthly payment. They don't know what percentage of the payment is principal and what percentage of the payment is interest. I'm not saying you need to have this memorized, but I am saying all of that was freaking on your terms and conditions when you signed the contract for the debt. Right? So if I enter into a contract and then I don't keep the contract, how am I supposed to have control over that contract? How am I supposed to get out of debt? How am I supposed to negotiate with my creditors? We have a program right now called MPA, right? With MPA, we have a debt assumption and a debt validation and a debt settlement program. The debt assumption and the debt validation, we just did this with a client. She's got just below 50 grand in credit card debt. We can do this with credit cards, student loans, on anything unsecured, really. The validation program, basically a creditor has to keep records of their debts with you. They have to keep records of the terms and the conditions, and they have to keep compliant, the creditor being the bank. If they don't, we have attorneys that will actually go after them and say, hey, prove to us the validity of the debt by producing all of the compliant and correct documents. And if the creditor can't produce it, legally, they have to eliminate the debt. It doesn't matter if it's student loans and you owe them $200,000. If they didn't document it correctly, they forfeit that entire loan. You don't have to pay it. And so our attorney team does this. And we have a client right now that's going through, she's got about 50 grand in credit cards. Those are all contracts. Because she did a really good job of record keeping, she was able to produce us the contracts and we can look at, okay, what are the terms? What are the conditions? Are they documented correctly? Do we think we can go through this validation program? And in her case, we can. And so we're going to save her over $65,000 in interest and principal on this debt that she has, right? We couldn't do that if she's not keeping records, right? So we have to stop thinking like financial consumers. We really have to look at, okay, I have to be on the same mindset, the same thinking plane as an institution, as a bank, as an investment company. Another big one is credit scores. So how do we organize our credit scores, right? So on credit scores, like my recommendation is set up a profile on like a credit check total or a MyFICO. You're going to pay them 20 or 30 bucks a month like that. And that's another thing, is be willing to invest in your systems. If you don't invest in your systems, you can't scale your wealth, right? The guy that's like, hey, 30 bucks a month for a credit reporting program is too much money. I don't know what to tell you, right? When we do tax planning and it's $5,000, like, yeah, we're going to save you 18. But if you're not willing to spend $5,000, that's going to be really difficult. If you're not willing to spend $20 on credit reporting, imagine how difficult the $5,000 decision is going to be. Be willing to invest in your systems. So if I am serious about my finances and I'm paying off my debt and I'm doing my life insurance, my credit report matters. And so I should be actually monitoring that, right? So again, if I'm a paper person, that might mean that I have credit check total or I have my FICO and I'm printing off a monthly credit report and I'm looking at it on paper and filing it. If I'm electronic, I'm putting that in my PDF. I'm not just saying I have my FICO and I have creditchecktotal.com and I have a login and once in a while I check. No. Actually download the report and put that in your folder, whether that's paper or electronic. Okay, because what that's going to do is it's going to make it convenient for you to check. When you need the credit report, there's no like, what's the password? Oh, what's the website? How do I log in again? Because this is what people face. And this is the reason why they don't get ahead with their finances is it's too inconvenient because when it's last minute, we don't remember these things. I should know my credit score at all times because I should be able to look at it. Just like with my debt, I should be able to look at a statement right there in front of me and it should be easy for me to find and produce. Okay. So that's one of the things we're going to have. Now, as we move forward on this, we're also going to start looking at some other insurance policies. You're going to have things like disability insurance. Okay. You're going to have things like an auto insurance policy, a homeowner's policy, a renter's policy, a liability policy. All of your insurance policies, same thing, right? Either commit to being electronic and put that in some kind of electronic storage file or print that out and actually have a physical policy document. Person 2 weeks ago emails me, hey, I need help getting rid of my health insurance. I want something cheaper. And I messaged her back and I was like, hey, great. I need to see what you have now because I can't make a recommendation on health insurance if I don't actually know what you have, because my recommendation has to be based on something. It can't just be what I think is better. We need to see, is it actually better than what you have? Well, she was like, hey, I don't know how to. I don't have a policy packet. I don't have a PDF. She ended up producing one, right? Like getting a PDF packet, but that's something you should have, right? I should have that printed. I should have that stored, paper or electronic. Any insurance policy should be printed out and put in a folder, right? And if you're new to this, do it all on paper. Okay, there's something to be said for actually having it in front of you. And it keeps you honest because you're like, okay, I can see this. It actually also feels really good to be like, okay, this is neat and organized. And even if you're electronically oriented, you can transition to that later. But I'm saying it's easier for you to learn when you have the tangible item in your hands. When you have a filing cabinet, it drives home the point of organization, right? When it's electronic and I haven't built those habits and I don't have those realities yet, then it's easy for me to be unorganized because I don't see it. It's all in the cloud and it's not there, in front of me to confront until I try and go find something, right? Now, all of this is kind of manually done all the way up until we get to the point of phase 2. Okay, phase 2 on the blueprint of financial freedom, we start doing things like estate planning. When we start doing estate planning, we're bringing in some more documents. We're bringing in a will, we're bringing in a living will, we're bringing in a healthcare directive, we're bringing in a trust. Our estate planning platform, and we actually have an in-network attorney, her name is Ciara. And so she sets up all of our clients with their estate planning, and it's all on an online portal because she can start monitoring it. Okay, now she can't monitor it if I haven't been. Right. And this is where the rubber starts hitting the road as we start bringing other people into our lives that are going to help us with these tasks, especially professionals like, estate planners and tax attorneys and CPAs and wealth strategists. They are not your administrative assistant. Right. So if I have an attorney that I'm working with and I'm like, hey, I don't know what my house is worth. I don't have my retirement statements. I don't have my investment accounts. I don't have my checking statements. They're not going to be like, great, I'll go do all that for you. They're going to be like, well, if you want our help, I have a paralegal that's $200 an hour and she'll do it for you. Right. And so that's where, if I'm starting to bring these people into my life, it really starts to help if I've been doing this stuff already, because it's easy to produce the documents they're going to ask for. On the estate plan, when I do a trust, they're going to ask for every single asset that I own. They're going to ask for a statement, because that statement has to be in the trust document, because if it's not, then when the trust document goes, to the point of me passing away and them saying, okay, what's in the trust? It's impossible to prove what's in there because there's not statements and there's not titling and all the stuff that needs to be there. And so I have to produce all that. Right. So my point on this is with the estate plan, if I haven't been doing the things I talked about up to this point, then all of it is going to stack up and become an emergency when I do my trust. Now, all of a sudden, oh, I got a budget. I got to figure out my credit score. I got to figure out what my assets are. I got to figure out what I own. I got to figure out who the beneficiaries are. And it's going to become this nightmare, and it's going to be expensive and time consuming because I waited. So guys, do this now and do this stuff in bite-sized pieces. Now, I'm not going to go through every single document that you need to have. What I do want to do is give you guys another concept though. Okay. What really helps for me is if I take different areas of my finances and I break them up into divisions, right? Let me add a couple more here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll do one more right there, right? So if I break these into divisions and I say, okay, this is my finances, and I have, what do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 divisions on this. And each of these areas handles like a group of financial stuff, right? So let's say that division 1, this has to do with personnel, right? And this would actually be like how my company works. Like, let's say that this is my personnel with my finances. This is where I have, my contracts on what I pay people, what they're supposed to do for me, right? Whether it's a bookkeeper or a CPA or an insurance guy, this is where I have job descriptions. How easy would your life be if everyone that was involved in your finances had a written job description and you had that in a file somewhere? And so you weren't confused about why isn't my CPA doing my bookkeeping, because it's not in their job description. Or if it is, they should be and they're not. You talk to them about that, right? So this is where I have that. This is where I have, anything where I would have, financial records that come in, right? So this would be like mail, email, right? That I receive, like particles coming in, I would organize that and I would distribute them through these different areas, right? This is maybe income producing assets, right? So this is where I focus on income statements. And so I have a division in my finances where I would have, division 2, all my income stuff is in there, right? Pay stubs, 1099s, right? Everything that comes in, receipts, deposit slips. This is all focused on income. Division 3, this could be like treasury. I would have my expenses. I would have my cash flow. Out of my asset values, right? I could have, what else could I have here? I could have records, like account titling, and all this is in division 3, right? And so I have a division of my finances where I've got it numbered, and I can also have this color coded if I wanted to, and I could do this paper, or I could do this electronic, but I know every single thing that I have goes into folder number 3 if it relates to these items, right? Every single thing that I have here goes into folder number 2 if it relates to income. Everything that I have regarding who I've hired, what they do, communications that I receive from them goes into folder 1 in that folder, right? Division 4, usually what are we producing, right? What's our goal, right? So this would be, if I'm looking at increasing my investments at this point in time, let's say I'm on phase 4 or phase 5, and I'm really focused on investing, this could be where I store my deal flow, right? Or maybe I'm focused on debt right now, right? And I'm focused on paying off consumer debt. This could be where I store my debt buyout plan. Right? And so I'd have a folder just for what's my blueprint step. Where am I at on the blueprint? What are all the things relating to that step? And it's all in that folder. And so I'm not confused about what I'm doing and what it looks like, right? Division 5 is typically going to be like a quality control, right? And so this is where I have, problems, inquiries, corrections, changes, like all this like kind of nitty gritty stuff that goes on with finances. I would have a folder for all of that, right? And then division 6 is typically, growing my personal brand. My wealth is a brand. This is like my family legacy. And so I would have, charities that we're going to contribute to. I'd have groups that we're going to be a part of. I would have, causes that we're going to back. I would have long-term expansion plans that I would all have inside of this folder. And then division 7 is typically going to be like an executive kind of a strategy thing. And so I'd have, all of my, maybe policies for the family, my trust documents could be in here, right? My family, financial outlook, if I'm doing meetings, like quarterly meetings with even if it's just me and my wife, right? Like all those notes could go in there. And so this is where I'm putting, notes, plans, policies, all of that goes in this folder. Okay. That's not hard. Like all of us could set up 7 folders tonight and write 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, color code them and put similar descriptions and group them. This is about organizing by like kind, right? I take similar things and I group them into one of these folders, and then I organize my finances based on that folder. Okay. And then I can have stats that I measure each one by, and I can start tracking those as well. And it gives me a lot of control over my finances. Okay. But a lot of us will look at this and be like, that's too hard. Why would I do that? That's weird. Nobody does that. Right? What are my friends and family going to think if they find out I have 7 folders full of financial information, right? Or I can't hang out on the weekend, or I can't go out on Friday night, or whatever it might be because I have this financial thing, right? Guys, that's short-minded. We're talking generational wealth and financial freedom, right? You're wearing handcuffs. How aggressively are you willing to get the handcuffs off? Because I'm telling you, this will get you there faster. Because what happens, guys, is if I go back to the blueprint and I look at, okay, we're going to do all this exciting stuff. We're going to do a sacred account. We're going to do bullion. We're going to do taxes, and we're going to do estate planning. We're going to do insurance policies. We're going to set up these different accounts and do trusts. And where you're going to be a sophisticated investor and accredited investor. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. And you start getting excited. And then all of these documents show up and you're like, ooh. And you're confused. And then you actually stop and slow down because all of this stuff is not organized. This is make or break. If I do this, I can get financially free. And if I don't, I'm going to make some progress until I get to the point of maximum capacity where I can't handle the confusion of all of my records and particles and accounts and passwords anymore. And at that point, I will stop and I will say, life sure was easier before I had all these things. I'm just going to go back because it was simple. It was simple when I just sat in a 4x6 cell in handcuffs and I have to worry about any of this stuff. Sure. Like you say that's simple. It's not freedom. Right. And as you fast forward down the line, like you become accredited and you become financially free, our goal is that you build your own family office, which means you will hire staff. You will have assistants that help you build your family's generational wealth. And how are you going to have staff if you're like, yeah, I don't know my credit score. I don't know how to access my investments. I don't know what my trust says. I don't know where my insurance policy is. I don't know my budget. Budgeting is for losers, right? I don't know how much money I make. I don't know what this is, right? Like it's about raising responsibility level and realizing that this is something that builds wealth. The systems are there. We have to use the systems and build the systems. And it's also about realizing it's not someone else's job or someone else's fault. If I'm unorganized, that's my fault, right? If I hire a tax person, they give me an intake form and they're like, fill this out. And I'm like, that's my fault because I don't have my stuff organized. If I hire a financial advisor that's going to review my investments and I'm like, yeah, I don't have any of my account statements, that is my fault. And I shouldn't expect them to do my administrative work. And I shouldn't expect that they're going to, fill out my papers and go look for my forms and tell me what my debt says. I should know this stuff. And if I don't, why the hell did I get into it in the first place? That has to be a personal ethics point of if I don't understand something, I don't do it. If I don't understand something, I don't get involved with it. And so that means that the things that I have already gotten involved in that I know I don't understand, I need to go back and I need to understand them and organize them and then decide I'm not going to do that thing again where I behave in a way where I buy things and get involved in things financially that I don't understand, which means I'm going to learn them and organize them as I do them. Right. So guys, I know this is not the exciting stuff we usually cover about like investing and tax planning, but this is fundamental stuff. And if you talk to any good business person, they're going to tell you their systems, their organization, their standard operating procedures is what allows them to scale. It makes me think of the movie Founder. It's the Ray Kroc story. If you've seen that with Michael Keaton, it's a great movie, but early in the movie, they're talking about the McDonald's brothers. Right? The actual guys that really founded McDonald's. It wasn't Ray Kroc. He bought the system from them. But if you actually looked at the system that the founders of McDonald's had before they would build a store, they would actually do on blacktop, they would chalk out the square footage of the entire store and they would actually draw all of the equipment and they would come up with systems and they would micromanage the hell out of the systems and practice efficiency of movement, placement of materials, right? And how to optimize every single bit of what they were doing. Someone watching from afar would be like, dude, they're crazy, right? But like Ray Kroc looked at that and he's like, that's genius. That's scalable. I want to buy this from them. Okay. Now I'm not saying that the purpose of you having financial organization with your wealth is to sell it to someone else, but I'm saying it's smart. And it's undeniably smart. And every good business person, every good entrepreneur, every wealthy person in the world is going to tell you that this stuff does matter. Okay. And it's different and it's uncomfortable and it's boring and it's time consuming, but you have to do it one way or another. And it's one of those things where if you don't, it's not happening in the background. Right? If I blow off this entire talk tonight and I'm like, yeah, I'm still going to go through financial life, just in denial and illiteracy and have no systems. It's not like I don't still have a credit score and there aren't still things happening to it, or I don't have investments and there aren't still things going on in those accounts, or I don't still have, kids and grandkids, and there's still going to be something that happens to my assets when I die, whether I choose that to happen the way I want it, or whether it happens by default to the state. Something is still going on in the background. This is not something where if I decide I don't do it, nothing happens. It's still going to continue on without me. So I can either be in control of it, or I can just be at the effect of whatever ends up happening. And it's not going to be any of my choice, and it's not going to be any of my priority. And it probably will matter when it happens. And I'll probably be upset that it didn't happen the way that I wanted to. But if I care that much, I should be doing it now. So guys, that's all I've got for you tonight. I want to open this up for questions. If you have questions, leave these in the comments. If you're on Zoom, we'll go live in the chat. If you're on Facebook, I'll answer your questions just verbally. So leave them in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. I would love to know if you have some systems in place that are working, what are you using, right? If there's things you felt I missed tonight or questions you still have that maybe we didn't address, leave those in the comments too. So go ahead and drop those. I'm going to check Facebook first and see what we have going on. Jeffrey, good to see you. Tyler, good to see you. Tyler says, got to go early. We'll finish in the morning. Thanks for all the knowledge. You're welcome. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Tyler. Denisha asks, can you run some type of challenge, for instance, where each week you task us with gathering our info or documents and setting up our files? I think this is important. We can look into it. Yeah, we can definitely look into that. I would say like take the initiative and start working on that ahead of time. We may be able to come up with a challenge for it. We may not. We can definitely look into it and see if that's a project we can add right now. But either way, like challenge yourself, and we could even make that a group accountability thing where maybe you partner up with someone in Wealth Dynamics Nation and that becomes kind of your twin. And then you focus on keeping each other accountable to that together. But I agree with you. It's very important. And it's something that's worth putting time and effort into making sure that that is covered. All right, let me see what we have here on Zoom. So I'm going to switch my earphones over really quick on Zoom, just so I don't get any echo or feedback. So again, if you have questions, drop these in the comments. We would love to see your questions tonight. I can answer them live on air.
Recording in progress.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to turn my volume down a little bit to get rid of the echo here. Okay, I can hear myself in my own ears, so that's good. All right, so questions on Zoom. Let me see what we have here. We have a question from Nano. Let me go ahead and bring Nano on live. If you guys heard that, that was my cat in the background.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Nano, what's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. What is your question tonight?
Yeah, so the question is, I think I missed the purpose of having the 7-folder system that you were describing. I saw you drawing it, but I did not get the purpose of it, or how often should one update?
Yeah, good question. So the purpose of that is really to create, financial organization by category. And what I mean by that is there are different categories of my finances. And so by having a system like that in place, it actually allows me to, stay even further organized. Oops, I think I just lost the audio here. Let me reconnect again. I can still answer Nano's question on the mic though. It allows me to stay further organized, right? So if I can take each of these different, particles that I have, because I'm going to have income statements and expenses and people I've hired and different things that are maybe, disrelated. But, that's going to allow me to categorize them and stay even further organized on that basis of, okay, these things might all fit in one group, right? And if they all fit in one group, then I'm able to keep track of them as a group and maybe assign that group stats or look at them, as a cluster instead of looking at individual pieces that are maybe disconnected, disrelated, and I can actually start to see some trends, correlations, different things like that. So it's really similar to, and Nano will understand, it's really similar to like an org board, organizing board, to having stats and things that are related to a certain unit or a certain area, except it's with my finances instead. All right. Keith says he will partner with someone on gathering and organizing records. So anyone that would like to twin up with Keith on that, I think that's an awesome idea. That's probably better than me trying to coach you guys through the Facebook group. Is if you can find someone that wants to improve their organization and their systems, find someone one-on-one, partner, set a goal, set a timeline, and say, hey, this is my person. We're going to meet once a week. We're going to do a call. We're going to do a whatever, and we're going to make sure that each other get organized, and we're going to do this over a 6 or 8 or 10 week period, whatever you'd like to do. So Keith and Denisha may be great to partner together. I think that's an awesome idea. All right, let me see if we have any other questions here on Facebook. Denisha says thumbs up. Awesome. Denisha, you can connect with Keith in the Facebook group. All right, I don't see anything else on Facebook. Let me check Zoom one more time. I think that's it for questions. Awesome. And tonight was pretty straightforward, so didn't expect that there would be a ton of questions. But guys, thank you for watching. Make sure that you do like, share, and subscribe. If you are new to this and you have not gotten a copy of my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom, make sure you grab this. If you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F, the letter B, the number 2, the letter F, this is something you can grab $15 and it's going to walk you through everything we talked about tonight. You can go through what I am doing to build wealth. Guys, I'm 29 starting tomorrow. I'm accredited. I'll be financially free by January, meaning I'll have passive income that exceeds my saving, expenses, and taxes. I'm not magic. I just followed what the book says. Because this is stuff I researched. I went and looked at what did the top 1% of wealth actually do with their finances based on history and biographies, balance sheets, cash flow statements, everything I could get my hands on. And then I turned it into a formula and followed it. And in a very short period of time, that's the result that I got. So if you do not have the book, grab that. We will be back again next Friday. So be sure to tune in live. David says, love this topic. Awesome. I figured David would. David owns a business, and so he understands the importance of systems and having organization. Guys, that's all I have for you. Make sure you, again, like, share, subscribe, get this out there, and I will see you all next week.